Hey, John.
Robert, good morning. You're absolutely right. As Muslim families observe the final nights of Ramadan, there are new disturbing numbers that have Arab and Muslim communities concerned and on high alert. We can tell you that the Council of American Islamic Relations has announced the highest number of Muslim civil rights complaints it has received since it first started collecting data.
Before we go through some of CAIR's most recent findings, what is structural Islamophobia?
Well, that's a great question. Let me think about how I can sort of speak plainly to that question. Structural Islamophobia, much like structural racism, is basically anti-Muslim bias that is baked into our institutional systems and our power systems. So if you think about our government institutions, our schools, it's just the way in which anti-Muslim bias is kind of baked in and passed down.
It is baked in.
Baked in and passed down.
It is seeping in.
Islamophobia has seeped into every part of our society.
It is rets in.
Now, the new report by CAIR details more than 6,700 civil rights complaints this past year alone.
CAIR's claim of having received 6,000 plus complaints is very similar to what they were saying last year. And so the question remains, where is the evidence of the 6,000 plus complaints?
2020, CAIR had released a civil rights report, and it documented over 6,000 complaints nationwide, 6,000 in 2020, right? And in 2019, CAIR released a report documenting over 10,000 anti-Muslim complaints.
Because these complaints are not mentioned in CAIR's press releases, and in fact, the Florida Family Association took a look at CAIR's press releases as seen on the CAIR website and found only 7 of the first 100 releases examined were civil rights complaints. Of course, they haven't detailed over 6,000 complaints. That would be unwieldy. So they have chosen the most compelling examples to present their best case for proof of a crisis in society. Although there are a few new things here, mostly their new report is a republishing of a previous report from last July. So let's review. Someone threw acid. We don't know who, and CAIR is using this to draw attention to themselves.
Last month, 21-year-old Nafia Ikram was ambushed in her Elmont driveway. Someone ran after her and threw a cup of acid at her, burning her face, one of her eyes, throat, and arms.
Nafia is a Pakistani-American Muslim.
That has to raise a specter, an inference, and an investigation has to be conducted.
But the family is not convinced.
The reason I think is not hate crime, why they did not throw on my wife.
If this was a hate crime, we're both the same religion and same culture. Why didn't the person throw the acid on both of us?
I think that in 2021, such attacks like this would not happen. You know, we live in New York. This is something that you hear about in foreign lands.
This is an important story, and there's no excuse for CAIR exploiting this woman's misfortune.
Hate spray painted on a Minnesota mosque. Police and federal authorities are investigating in Moorhead, Minnesota.
Minnesota's chapter for the Council on American Islamic Relations is calling on authorities to label the mosque graffiti as a hate crime.
An Islamic advocacy group says the Muslim community in the Fargo-Moorhead area is offering forgiveness to a man accused of vandalizing a mosque last month.
Regret what I did. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life.
We are human beings. We all make mistakes, and we have to be able to forgive each other. Love and our faith teaches us to forgive each other and forgive others, and that's what we want to display in this moment. So if we're seeking forgiveness from God, then it's best for us to also forgive, actually provide forgiveness to those who need it from us as well.
But they didn't forgive anything. 3 months later, they were defaming Enderle on TV.
Now, the Center for American Islamic Relations says they're now calling for the FBI to look into Enderle's background and ties, as they claim Enderle was affiliated with a hate group. In a statement, the group said, quote, Enderle was allegedly working with accomplices in a hate group who possess an arsenal of weapons. We urge the FBI to investigate potential threats these individuals may pose to the local Muslim community.
Now, a 35-year-old Albany man arrested and charged for weapons and for menacing with these guns after allegedly threatening people at 2 stores Tuesday night simply because they're Muslim.
35-year-old James Davis was arrested and charged after allegedly making racist threats to employees at 2 separate corner stores. Police believe this could be the weapon used during the incidents. Davis also goes by Minette Utep El Day. We've covered stories with him at local Black Lives Matter protests.
Right now, it doesn't rise to the level of a hate crime.
We're not U.S. citizens. We're the American. We're the Moorish Americans.
The woman who did this may have mental health issues. Isn't this just another isolated incident?
Sound the general alarm! Sound the general alarm! Sound the general alarm! Officer the deck!
Harassed and bullied over her graduation speech. The student, who is Muslim from the Wheatley School in Nassau County, urged fellow students to educate themselves about world issues, and she specifically mentioned the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and Muslims. Well, that led to jeers from the crowd and for her family to be bullied.
Educate yourself about international dilemmas, including the ethnic cleansings of Palestinians and Uyghur Muslims. Families are continuously torn apart, and real human lives are being lost but ignored.
Our graduation ceremony had ended. My parents hadn't even reached me yet, but there were like grown adult men coming toward me, telling me my speech was a bunch of profanities. And thankfully there were people there to hold them back. Also boos and chants of we support Israel. And also there was a comment at me to go back to Pakistan. Ignored everything that happened to me, and the reaction that was extremely unprecedented from the parents, and instead went and apologized to them without acknowledging that behavior.
When absolutely nothing happened to her. And if anything, the Jewish students and families who were targeted at that event, and she was able to get away with that, we are the victims of these lies that have real consequences.
A bizarre crime investigation tonight in Las Vegas with bacon as the weapon. A Muslim family says a neighbor smeared raw bacon on their home, and now he's been arrested.
Man with a strip of raw bacon, rubbing it all over their home.
The staircase, the railing, the door frame, everywhere. And it was so unfortunate because when my kids came home earlier, they had touched those places in order to enter. And we don't necessarily, bacon isn't our kryptonite. However, if anybody rubs meat on your surface and walls, then it would be uncomfortable.
Police identify him as Ricky Uwish, and he now faces charges of harassment, stalking, and being a nuisance. The family says he lives downstairs and claims he's called them names and caused problems before. This one was pretty blatant.
We're learning new details about a disturbing attack on a North Penn High School student. The 16-year-old says this brawl, caught on camera, was not the first time she was targeted because of her religion.
A fight between Buford and two other girls at the school that was captured on video and posted online. Buford claims during the brawl, her hijab, her religious head covering, was purposely torn off by one of the students. Adding insult to injury, it occurred during the holy month of Ramadan.
A hijab to a Muslima is probably the most sacred and most powerful thing that we have on our body.
Community leaders are protesting charges against a Montgomery County high school student involved in a school fight.
Rallying against what they see as unjust impending criminal charges against Sanaa. That all three of the girls were found responsible for the fight and all were charged with mutual combat assault. The totality of the Tawaminson Police Department's investigation and found no evidence that racial or religious bias motivated this fight.
This story is new. However, there is no evidence that structural Islamophobia killed Adil Drogi. This is yet another isolated, although tragic, incident.
A grand jury has indicted a homeowner who shot and killed a man in Martindale last October with first-degree murder. The family of the man who died says investigators have been too lenient on that homeowner.
Drogi's life came to an end outside Terry Turner's home last October. It's unclear why he pulled his vehicle into the driveway. Drogi's family suspects he was lost. Turner told police he shot Drogi in self-defense, though investigators say no weapons were found in the car. Otmain asked the Caldwell County sheriffs what happened.
And all they said, oh, we think it was just a misunderstanding. And I was mad because I told him a misunderstanding doesn't end up with somebody shooting somebody in the head.
So the action that has been taken by that local police department really indicate to us that perhaps they are not the best able to give justice in this case, and that's why we're calling on other higher entities to take on, whether it's Department of Justice, whether the Texas Rangers, or other agencies who can actually give an independent and fair investigation.
There were 7 broadcasts about CAIR providing TV stations with security camera footage of an explosive device thrown at an Islamic center. Only one of the broadcasts reported the police saying it was not a device, but a firecracker, and there is no evidence that anyone targeted the center.
In Washington, the Council on American Islamic Relations now calling for an investigation.
The Washington chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations shared this security video showing someone driving up to the Islamic Center of Olympia on November 23rd and setting off some sort of explosive device.
Now, community members and police want to find the person who set off explosions at a mosque in Olympia.
Kevin, this is some pretty disturbing video that you have.
Let's get to that video right now because it truly captures the incident from beginning to end. Now, this video shows a car driving up to the mosque and tossing a device in front of the building. The car then speeds away, then the device explodes.
If I express anti-Muslim bigotry, if I express some violent rhetoric towards Muslims, I'm not going to get punished for it.
As he alluded to right there, this is yet another violent incident that we are seeing at a place of worship.
The Thurston County Sheriff's Office is investigating this.
The Thurston County Sheriff's Office is investigating. The Sheriff's Office is now investigating that blast at the Islamic Center of Olympia. The center was targeted with an explosive device.
The Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR in Washington, urged interfaith leaders to take a stand with the mosque after the incident.
After somebody tossed an explosive device at the center last week. The Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, shared the security video from November 23rd.
Newly released video shows something exploding outside the Islamic Center of Olympia last Tuesday. Thurston County Sheriff's deputies say it appeared to be a firework.
Thurston County Sheriff's Department doesn't believe that the incident that happened here was a targeted attack on the Islamic Center. Even so, they tell me they plan on increasing patrols.
While it is unlikely that anyone is in a heightened state of alert because of incidents reported almost a year earlier, it is certain that with the help of the TV stations, there will be many more examples of incitement from the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Anti-Muslim bias is kind of baked in.